NHL Hall of Famer Willie O'Ree. Willie, so great that you could join us. Can you tell us what's the most important thing you want people to know about the film?
Well, first of all, I'd like to let them know that it isn't about just hockey in general. It's about my life and growing up in Fredericton and goal setting that I set for myself, and then getting into the pros, and then finally getting into the NHL and with the Boston Bruins in 1958, and then the career that I had after that.
And that's often your message to young people, setting goals, reaching those goals. I know you had the goal of getting to the NHL, but one really big part of the movie that people will see when they watch is you getting into the Hall of Fame. Walk us through the moment when you learned, up until and when you learned you were going to be a member of the Hall of Fame.
Well, Brian McBride, who hired me with the NHL back in 1996, said that, Willie, you should be in the Hall of Fame. And a lot of people thought that I had already been in the Hall of Fame, but there was a lot of influential people, and Brian McBride himself, and then when I got the news, it was breathtaking, and I was overwhelmed when I finally got on the phone with the Hall of Fame people.
In the film, I saw that you were stacking up phones, you were looking at jerseys, you were trying to distract yourself. What were those moments like for you?
Well, I was nervous, and I believe I had four phones in front of me, and I knew I was going to get the call between noon and 3 p.m. And I was anxiously waiting, and the phone would ring. There was a couple of my friends called, and I just said, "I'll call you back." I didn't want to stay on the phone too long because I wanted to keep the lines open. But when I finally got the call from Lonnie McDonald in the hall, and he said, "Willie, how's your day going?" I said, "Well, it could be better." And he says, "I've got some wonderful news." He says, "You're going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame." Well, when he told me that, it was I was at a loss for words. My wife was in the room. Brian McBride was there. My son-in-law was there, and I just felt so great and so happy that it was going to happen.
It's incredible what you've been able to achieve, breaking the color barrier in hockey back in the 50s, all the things you had to endure, the racial taunts, everything you went through on the ice. And then I think about recently Akeem Alu's story, talking about Bill Peters, the comments he made about him. I heard that you had said that when it comes to issues of race and issues like this, the NHL in some ways has taken one step forward and two steps back. What did you mean by that?
Well, taking one step forward, when I broke in, I was the only black player in the league, and I had racial slurs and racial taunts. But now today, we're going into the 21st century, and I'm very sorry that I have to hear these racial slurs and racial remarks, and all of a sudden you don't hear any, and you say, "Well, there, take that one step forward. We're working in the right direction." And then all of a sudden in the game, you hear a fan will make these racial slurs and racial remarks to these players. And these players of color and black players, they're there because they have the skills and the ability to be there. They're not there because of their color. And I just can't understand why people have to make these remarks like that. And then all of a sudden I say, well, all right, now we're taking another step back, and now we've got to work hard to get that other step forward. So it's not going to happen overnight. There's still going to be racism and prejudice and the bigotry and the ignorance that is out there with these people. And the one thing I learned from Dr. King, he says, don't judge a person by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And there's a lot of truth to that. If people would just look at a person as an individual and forget the color of their skin. When I get up in the morning and look in the mirror, I don't see a brown man or a black man, just a man.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.